Approximately 1 in every 59 children are born with autism. Albert Einstein.
Dr. Einstein had no speech until age 3. Steve Jobs, he was a loner. He brought snakes to school.
Leonardo da Vinci, this man was far advanced on the autism spectrum.
I'm not naughty. I'm autistic. And I just get too much information.
You're listening to Takiwātanga, Love Not Cure, Exploring Autism One Strength at a Time.
Let's talk about Autism and Asperger's syndrome. Autism and Asperger's syndrome are both developmental disorders that affect social interaction and communication skills. However, Asperger's syndrome was considered a separate condition in the past and was characterized by relatively normal language development and intellectual ability, as well as repetitive patterns of behavior and interests. In 2013, the latest edition of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, or DSM-5, combined Asperger's with other autism spectrum disorders, or ASD, under the umbrella term of autism spectrum disorder. This means that the distinction between Asperger's and autism is no longer recognized in a clinical context. Autism is also known as autism spectrum disorder, which is a neurodevelopmental disorder that affects social interaction, communication, and behavior. It is a spectrum disorder, meaning that the symptoms and severity can vary widely among individuals with autism. Some common symptoms include difficulty with social interactions and communication, repetitive behaviors or routines, and limited interest in activities or topics. The exact cause of autism is still not known until this point, and it's believed to be a combination of genetic and environmental factors. There's no cure for autism, but early intervention and therapy can greatly improve outcomes and quality of life of individuals with autism. Asperger's syndrome, on the other hand, was a separate diagnostic category in the past, characterized by normal language development and intellectual ability, as well as repetitive patterns of behavior and interest. Individuals previously diagnosed with Asperger's would now be diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder based on their specific symptoms and severity. The term Asperger's is still sometimes used informally to refer to individuals with autism who have higher functioning and less severe symptoms. The history of autism dates back to the early 20th century when the condition was first described by psychiatrist Leo Kanner in 1943. He used the term early infantile autism to describe a pattern of behavior in children that include difficulties with social interaction and communication, repetitive behaviors, and limited interests. In the decade that followed, the understanding and definition of autism evolved and expanded. In 1980, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorder, DSM-3, recognized autism as separate disorder separate from schizophrenia. Over time, research into the cause and characteristics of autism increased, leading to the creation of the concept of the autism spectrum. In 2013, the latest edition of the DSM-5, combined autism and related disorders, including Asperger's syndrome, into the umbrella diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. Today, autism is widely recognized and diagnosed, and there is ongoing research into improving diagnosis, treatment, and support for individuals with autism and their families. Asperger's syndrome was first described by pediatrician Hans Asperger in 1944. He used the term autistic psychopathy to describe a pattern of behavior in children that included difficulties with social interaction and communication, repetitive behaviors, and limited interest. However, Asperger's work was not widely known outside of Austria until in the 1980s. In 1981, British psychiatrist Lorna Wing introduced the term Asperger's syndrome to describe a milder form of autism, characterized by normal language development and intellectual ability. The concept of Asperger's syndrome was included in the third edition of the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, or DSM-3R, that is in 1987, and this became widely recognized as a separate diagnostic category. Each edition of the DSM provides an updated definitions and criteria for diagnosing mental disorders based on current knowledge and research. The DSM is updated periodically, with the latest edition, DSM-5, being published in 2013. The DSM is considered a critical tool for the accurate and consistent diagnosis of mental disorders. as it helps to ensure that individuals receive the appropriate treatment and support they need. There are several key differences between the DSM-3 and the DSM-5. So, structure. DSM-5 is organized based on dimensional and neurodevelopmental model, while DSM-3 was organized based on a categorical model. This means that DSM-5 considers mental disorders as part of a spectrum, while DSM-3 considered them as separate and distinct categories. In criteria, DSM-5 criteria are more specific and require a certain number of symptoms to be present, while DSM-3 criteria were more general. And when it comes to diagnosis, DSM-5 has added several new diagnoses and combined some existing diagnoses, while DSM-3 had fewer diagnoses. And when it comes to approach, DSM-5 has a more holistic approach, considering the individual's overall functioning and incorporating the impact of cultural and environmental factors, while DSM-3 focused primarily on symptoms. The changes made in DSM-5 reflect advances in the understanding of mental health and the need for more nuanced approach to diagnosing mental disorders. It is important to note that DSM-5 is not a definitive guide and that the criteria and diagnosis should be used as a starting point for further evaluation and understanding of a person's mental health. The American Psychiatric Association, or APA, is a professional organization of psychiatrists and other mental health professionals. It was founded in 1844 and is headquartered in Arlington, Virginia. The APA is the largest psychiatric organization in the world and is dedicated to advancing the field of psychiatry through research, education, and advocacy. The APA is best known for publishing the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorder or Disorders, or DSM, which provides a common language and standard criteria for the classification of mental disorders. The DSM is widely used by healthcare professionals, including psychiatrists, psychologists, and other mental health practitioners to diagnose mental health conditions. In addition to the DSM, the APA also provides continuing education and professional development opportunities for its members, conducts research and advocacy on behalf of people with mental health illness, and works to improve access to mental health care for all people. The APA is committed to promoting mental health and wellness and advancing the understanding and treatment of mental health illness. So the question is DSM the only standard available? The DSM is widely used as a standard for diagnosing mental disorders, but it's not the only available standard. The World Health Organization also provides a standard for diagnosing mental health disorders through the International Statistical Classification of Diseases and Related Health Problems, or ICD. ICD is used by healthcare providers and public health systems globally, including those in countries outside of the United States. While both DSM and ICD provide diagnostic criteria and classifications of mental disorders, they differ in their approach and specific criteria. The DSM is widely used in the United States and is updated periodically to reflect advances in the field of mental health, while ICD is used globally and is updated less frequently. In practice, mental health professionals may use a combination of the DSM and ICD or other diagnostic tools to diagnose mental health conditions. It is important to note that no single diagnostic tool or standard can capture the full complexity of mental health and the wide range of experiences that people with mental illness may have. The diagnosis of mental disorder or disorders is best made by a mental health professional through a comprehensive evaluation that considers a person's symptom, history, and overall functioning. The ICD is used in a variety of settings, including healthcare research and insurance, and is designed to provide a common understanding of diseases and disorders that can be used globally. It is important to note that a specific criteria used for diagnosing autism may vary somewhat depending on the diagnostic tool or standard used, and that no single tool or standard can capture the full complexity of mental health and the wide range of experiences that individuals with mental illness may have. The differences between DSM and ICD. Number 1. Origin and scope. ICD is developed and maintained by the World Health Organization and is used globally, while the DSM is developed and maintained by the American Psychiatric Association or APA and is primarily used in the United States. The ICD covers a wider range of diseases and disorders, including both physical and mental conditions, while the DSM is more focused on mental disorders. Number 2, diagnostic criteria. The DSM and ICD both provide diagnostic criteria for mental health disorders, but the criteria may differ in their specificity and approach. The DSM tends to be more focused on specific symptoms, while the ICD places more emphasis on the overall pattern of symptoms and functional impairment. Number 3, revisions and updates. The DSM is updated more frequently than the ICD, reflecting advances in the field of mental health and changes in the understanding of mental disorders. The ICD, on the other hand, is updated less frequently, with the latest version, ICD-11, being published in 2018. Number 4, use in research. The DSM is widely used in research on mental health disorders, particularly in the United States, while the ICD is used more globally, including the countries outside of the United States. In practice, mental health professionals may use a combination of the DSM and ICD or other diagnostic tools to diagnose mental health conditions. The choice of which to use may depend on the individual's case, the professional's training and experience, and local practices. It is important to note that no single diagnostic tool or standard can capture the full complexity of mental health and the wide range of experiences that individuals with mental illness may have.
Every Tāngata fight Takiwātanga is different. If you fail with one strategy, don't stop. Keep moving forward. Always remember that for every failure you encounter is one step closer to your success. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, me muto te whakawa haere. Let's stop judging others. Me mahi tahi tato. Let's all work together. Kia maya, kia kaha, be brave and be strong.
Thank you.